And thank you so much for being with us, everyone, this morning. Good morning, and welcome to this press briefing. With us today, Mayor Jerry L. Demings, co-chairs Love and Coffin, and the Orange County Commissioners are here. Commissioner Wilson, Moore, Uribe, Gomez Cordero, Bonilla, and Siplin have all joined us for this press conference about the Citizen Safety Task Force. And as you just heard, the Orange County Board of County Commissioners has approved the recommendations of the Citizen Safety Task Force. Mayor Demings called for this task force in an effort to make this community a safer place, reducing violent crime and gun violence. For this event, the mayor will make a few comments. Then the co-chairs, Love and Coffin, will share a few words. The mayor will close out quickly, move back into the Board of County Commission meeting, and co-chairs Love and Coffin will remain for one-on-one interviews. Please, ladies and gentlemen, the questions today we are asking respectfully be only about the Citizen Safety Task Force. If you have other questions about other topics, please reserve them until the mayor has a break. So for this session, only questions about the Citizen Safety Task Force, and we will start this press conference with Mayor Demings. Mayor.
Thank you to Dr. Williamson, and thank you to all of you. And let me begin by saying thank you to my colleagues on the Board of County Commission for the passion and understanding that they exhibited today with the issues that are before us here within our community. As you all know, that we've had some significant violent crime incidents involving our youth here in our community. And we have endeavored as a county to do something about it. And so I'd like to recognize our task force co-chairs, former County Commissioner Rod Love and Pastor Jim Coffin, for their efforts in leading this group for the last 52 task force meetings and the 120-day period of time that the task force was put in place. They averaged some 100 hours of meetings, and if you look at the 37-member task force, that would be 3,700 plus hours collectively that they spent in meetings. However, they dedicated much more time to this particular effort. I'd also like to thank the commissioners for appointing a representative from each of their respective districts. This was a very diverse, citizen-led group that brought their passion and expertise, focusing on the 4 pillars of prevention, intervention, enforcement, and prosecution. When the task force began their work on November the 6th, 2020, Orange County had experienced 7 shootings of children 17 years of age and younger, and 2 of those tragedies resulted in fatalities, with the youngest child being but 3 years old. We know that more shootings have occurred since that first meeting, but the work of the task force has heightened the awareness of this issue within our community. I'm confident that we will begin to make the changes needed in our community. I would say this work will not end with the recommendations. This work should outlive all of us and evolve over time. We also know that government and law enforcement cannot solve this problem alone. This is a community-wide issue, and it takes a collaborative approach to bring change in the short term and long term to address long-standing problems that we have. In addition of the task force's work, on January the 26th, the County Commission approved $2 million to support the recommendations. With the board's acceptance today, the 20 recommendations provide Orange County a roadmap to prevent and reduce violent crime and make our community safer. We will begin to move forward with next steps in the process to institutionalize the recommendations to the extent we have control over the outcomes. Once again, I would like to thank the County Commission, the co-chairs and task force members for their work and commitment to the residents of Orange County. At this time, I would like to ask our co-chairs to come forward and share a few words, and we'll begin with Pastor Coffin, and he'll be followed by Rod Love.
I'd just like to say that it was a privilege to participate in this exercise. When Mayor Demings first contacted me to ask if I would play that role, I wasn't sure what was involved. I figured there would be some work involved, but I didn't recognize how much reward there would be involved in this. And when I say reward, I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about satisfaction. And to see actually a group of people as diverse as this task force were, coming together, strong opinionated people, all of whom had ideas about how things should be done and shouldn't be done, and yet to see them come together and work so harmoniously and so committedly and putting in such hours to make sure that the result was there was an extremely rewarding experience. And so I'd like to thank Mayor Demings and all the commissioners for making this possible. And I'd like to thank all of those who worked with us as co-chairs, and particularly each of these subcommittees where the work really took place, and the co-chairs of the subcommittees. The work was tremendously done. A big thank you. And now it's time for us all to reap reward as we implement this and see changes and benefits that can come because of what has been done here. Thank you very much.
You know, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Mayor Demings for having the courage to seat this task force. The work of the task force was predominantly about quality of life. I want to recognize those community stakeholders that stepped out to let their voice be heard. But I think this is the blueprint that the nation can look at. I'd like to recognize our mayor and the county commissioners for having the courage. Many of us have served on task force before. We present a document that provides the answers and solutions. But what this Board of County Commissioners and the mayor have done, they put resources so that based on those inputs and those outputs, we can start realizing those outcomes that we want to realize. And I have to say, the community is going to have to be part of this process. This was about gun violence and the reduction of violent offenses. I just want to say to the community that stepped out, to the task force members, I want to say thank you. And to Mayor Demings and the Board of County Commissioners, you are fantastic, but not only fantastic, your comments about delivery methods, deliverables, and Mayor Demings, I will not forget what you said. No, this money is not free. There's an anticipation of a return on taxpayer dollars. So with that being said, I want to once again thank the community, thank the task force, Mayor Demings and this commission, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you to the co-chairs. At this time, we're opening up to any questions that any of the commissioners or the task force chairs or myself.
Mayor Demings, you mentioned briefly in the meeting about accountability. How do you plan to hold this committee?
We're going to hold the recommendations and the work that we would do accountable by through contractual agreements that we will have with these grassroots or community-based organizations. We will measure the outcomes. We will report back from time to time to the Board of County Commission to ensure that those goals and those objectives that are laid out in the contractual agreements are being met. It may require at some point that we make adjustments as we move forward, but the citizens will understand. One of the obvious measures is, will violent crime go down? Will gun violence be reduced in our community? We will do that, again, by looking at this lens of social equity as we move forward. And as the Board of County Commission, it is our role to establish policy. So through the various policies and the implementation of those policies within the county, this is the body that will ultimately be held accountable by the citizens of our great county to ensure that we are spending their dollars in an appropriate manner.
Mayor, can you tell us, or one of the co-chairs, can you tell us where you want to see, as you said, it's a lot of money, $2 million, where you want to see it invested the most and where you think it'll make the most difference?
Okay. Would one of the co-chairs like to respond? Otherwise, I will.
The mayor. The mayor.
Okay. In terms of where we would like to see the dollars spent, you heard some terminology that was given during the presentation. One was we'd like to see advanced services in a balanced way that really goes to affect those 4 pillars: prevention, intervention, enforcement, and prosecution. We want to take into consideration for adverse childhood experiences as we look through this lens, this equity lens that you heard us talk about. And we want to engage our credible messengers to help the effort as we look towards outcomes. So that means that these community-based organizations, we are going to depend on them to interact with us through this process and to help create the safe spaces for our youth to go as we look to mentor and hopefully shape their developmental processes so that they make better choices in life to avoid criminal behavior or other behaviors that will be contrary to really allowing them to develop into the persons that they can be. So that means investment in youth sports. That means investment in, I'm going to say, technology focus. You know, we have some organizations that are working with youth, like Tech Savvy Girls, if you will, an organization that is working with our young girls and teenagers here within the community. Well, we want something similar for the boys, the youth. We know that we see almost on a daily basis now, it's sad to say, where we see black and brown boys and young men sometimes disproportionately impacted by the criminal justice system. We want to see new programs come about through those efforts, and so I'm going to be optimistic. When we look to the contractual agreements, we're going to look for community organizations to present proposals that they will use to help reach the goals that were now codified in the recommendations by this task force. So we're not going to tell them how to do it. We're going to look for proposals to come in that will be consistent with the recommendations of our task force.
And I'm assuming some of these.
Last question, Greg. I'm sorry. Last question, please. Go ahead. Go ahead, Greg.
Oh, and I'm sorry. So, for example, it's possible some of these grassroots organizations might require space in some of the community centers in Orange County. If so, if they want to run a program through there, that's okay?
Yes, we'll look to all of those partnerships. Public, private, and philanthropic partnerships will be, I think, the goal of the day. Okay. Other questions? All right. Thank you, commissioners, for being here. I'm not sure if any of you, I'll say if any of you would like to make any comments, you certainly can.
I have a question actually for Commissioner Siblin and Uribe. Commissioner Siblin, you talked about where you would like to see this committee focused in terms of services that are needed for children out here.
Well, I can tell you, we need to make sure, and I think it's been said before, that our grassroots organizations, I think is key. It's key to the success that we're looking for. I think many of us here are at an age where, you know, we want to be sure that we implement this. Now, will we see the manifestation of all of the work that we have put in? Maybe not, but we know with us implementing, with us funding the right organizations, that we will see that our future will be bright. You know, our kids are our future, and we all know that. So we need to make sure as the adults, as the leaders, decision makers, that we leave a legacy that will change our community. I think that's what the objective here is.
Can you talk about some of those grassroots organizations? Can you give us an example?
Well, I can tell you personally, like I stated before, Dr. Dorsey runs Orlando Minority Youth Golf Association, where he takes the children right there in Paramore, and he introduces them to the game of golf. But through the game of golf, what he's teaching them is integrity, honesty, discipline. There is so much that we can associate when we bring our kids into sports. It's not the physical activity, but it's the discipline that they receive that will carry them on to a future that they have success. Now, we all measure success differently, but I think if we give our children an opportunity to define what success is for them, and then we implement and we support that, I think that's, that's what is needed. And there's many more organizations, but I'm speaking for that particular organization because I've been a part of it for 13 years, and I continue to be a part of it because I see the difference that it can make. And Dr. Dorsey doesn't even ask for assistance. I think Commissioner Uribe said it. Some of the smaller organizations, they're like, you know what, we can't compete with some of the larger agencies. So I'm just going to use the funds that I have, my personal funds that I raise, and I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to do my part. And so, my hats go off to those who have dedicated, personal funds, that personal sacrifice in time to make a difference in their community. So.
Jeff, do you want us to stop? Because I can do
Well, the mayor's in charge of the president.
Okay. We have one other commissioner that would like to make comments, Commissioner Emily Bonilla, and then we'll open it up to one-on-ones, and then we have to get back to our board meeting. All right.
All right. Well, I'll just say that one of the things that really stood out to me from this task force was the behavioral health care services for these children and people who are dealing with trauma. The lives that they're living, there's a lot of trauma that they have to deal with. And with children especially, that can cause issues, preventing them from becoming adults that can work within the community that they need to work in and to be able to function properly. So I would definitely love to see that explored more funding for that, because it's something that's very expensive and unattainable for most families who are in poverty to be able to get those types of services. And definitely working with the school system, the public school system, to make sure that we could provide those services within the schools, I think is another opportunity for us to continue working with them. So that's something definitely that I would like to see funded more.
Commissioner Uribe, we talked about the Hispanic communities and the needs and how this task force can actually work within those communities as well.
Yes, I think it's very important. There's a culture and language issue, so we can't not realize they're part of the situation and part of the problem. And like I say, I worry more of that openness because there is a cultural issue. Do they realize that this is something that you can talk about, that you can express yourself about? And really, I think it boils down to the communities themselves. We've got to hear from them. They're the ones that know what's going on in their neighborhoods more than we ever will. So they have to be a factor. And I think we have to be cognizant. And I love that the co-chairs have also realized that we're going to make this in a language they understand and through cultural issues and barriers that they also understand. And I think that's key in everything. Thank you.
All right. Again, thank you all for being here today. We will be transitioning back into our Board of County Commission meeting, but if there are any quick one-on-ones, then we will make ourselves available for that. Again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.